If you work a desk job, this might make you uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. Because AI doesn't make you replaceable by firing you. It doesn't even start by replacing your job. The first thing AI does is much quieter and much more dangerous. It makes you replaceable while you're still employed. And once that happens, everything about your job security changes, even if your performance is good. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the very first way AI does this, the moment it usually starts, and the one shift that separates people who survive this from people who don't, without turning this into some unrealistic tech fantasy. But first, let me say this clearly. If you think the danger is losing your job overnight, you're looking in the wrong direction. AI doesn't replace people first, it replaces uniqueness. And when your work stops being unique, you become optional. That's the first way AI makes you replaceable. Most office workers think their value comes from effort, from being reliable, from working hard, from knowing the process, but AI doesn't care about effort. AI attacks process, and once process gets automated, the human doing it starts to blend into the background, not because they're bad, but because the work no longer needs them specifically. Let me explain what that looks like in real life. At first, AI shows up as help. It helps you write faster, think faster, organize faster. You stop staring at blank screens, you stop rewriting emails, you stop manually pulling data together, and you feel relief. That relief is important because it masks what's really happening. Your work starts to look cleaner, more consistent, more structured, and less personal, less dependent on how you think. And that's the moment the danger quietly starts. Because when your output becomes predictable, your value becomes transferable. Think about it this way. If someone else could step into your role tomorrow and with the same AI tools produce something very close to what you produce, then your job has already changed. Even if nobody has said anything, even if nothing bad has happened yet, even if you're still busy every day, that's the first crack. And most people miss it because the company doesn't frame it as risk, they frame it as improvement. Suddenly there's a push for templates, for standard formats, for best practices, for documenting how things are done, all professional, all logical, but underneath it, something else is happening. The company is slowly removing the dependence on individual humans. They're turning what used to live in people's head into systems, and the systems don't need loyalty, experience, or job history. Here's where this gets uncomfortable. When AI enters a workplace, management doesn't ask who can we replace, they ask where is the variation. Variation is expensive, variation is risky, variation is slow. AI exists to reduce variation, and the more AI reduces variation, the less company needs individuals, it just needs coverage. That's why the first people who become replaceable aren't the worst performers, it's often the people whose jobs are built around repeatable thinking, repeatable analysis, repeatable communication, repeatable decision support. Roles where the skill used to be knowing how, but AI knows now how to. And this is why being good at your job can actually speed this up. Because when you're good, you show what the role should look like. You create the pattern, and once the pattern exists, it can be copied. AI loves patterns. Patterns make headcount easier to justify or reduce. Here's a thought that's worth sitting with for a second. If your job can be described clearly, step by step, without losing much value, then it's already halfway to being automated or compressed. That doesn't mean you're useless, it means your role design is fragile. And this is where most office workers accidentally walk into the trap. They think the goal is to become faster, to become more efficient, to become the best at using AI tools, and yes, that helps, but only temporarily, because speed doesn't protect you if speed becomes the new baseline. Once everyone is fast, the company asks why it needs so many people going fast at the same thing. That's when teams shrink quietly, not with big announcements, not with panic, but with phrases like streamlining, realignment, efficiency, and doing more with less. And suddenly roles merge, or vacancies don't get refilled, or responsibilities quietly get absorbed by fewer people with better tools. And here's the brutal truth. AI doesn't need to replace you directly, it just needs to make someone else capable of doing enough of your work that the math changes. So what actually protects you? This is the part people don't like because it sounds abstract, but it's real. The people who survive this shift aren't the ones who do tasks best. They're the ones whose value lives outside the task. They're close to outcomes, close to decisions, close to consequences. Their work changes what happens next, not just how fast something gets done. AI is very good at producing output. It's much worse at owning results. A task is writing a report, an outcome is influencing a decision. A task is summarizing information, an outcome is deciding deciding what matters. A task is responding quickly, an outcome is preventing problems before they happen. If your role is defined by tasks, AI squeezes it. If your role is defined by outcomes, AI can actually amplify it. And here's the shift that quietly saves people. Stop positioning yourself as someone who does work and start positioning yourself as someone who owns something. A decision, a result, a risk, a relationship, a metric that matters. Because when something breaks, companies don't ask who wrote the email, they ask who was responsible. Responsibility is harder to automate than output. Now, I want to give you something practical, something you can actually use, not just think about. Over the next week, listen to how you describe your job. If you catch yourself explaining it in terms of tasks, writing, preparing, organizing, updating, supporting, that's a warning sign. Start reframing it in terms of impact. What does your work enable? What problem does it reduce? What decision does it support? And what happens if it's done badly? You don't need to announce this loudly. You don't need to play office politics. You just need to shift how your value is understood, because once AI enters a workplace, perception matters more than effort. And here's the final thought, the one that really matters. The first way AI makes you replaceable at work isn't by replacing your job. It's by removing the reason you specifically are needed to do it. And once that reason disappears, everything becomes negotiable. Salary, role, security. But if you can anchor your value to outcomes, judgment and responsibility, things that don't live cleanly inside software, you can give yourself time. And time is everything during a shift like this. If you want some clarity, comment down below your exact job title and I'll reply with how long roughly you have got until AI is potentially going to be taking your role, and I'll give you some tips on how you can optimize your role so you can last longer. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe for everything to do with office workers and the future of AI. I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.